Dog Denver's mayor reveals the shocking truth about dog parks conspiracy. Watch before deleted. What if I told you that Denver's reputation as America's most dog-friendly city wasn't born from love, but from a carefully orchestrated conspiracy that dates back to the 1970s? What if the very dog parks you visit today were part of a master plan so controversial that city officials tried to bury it for decades? Today, we're exposing the shocking truth behind Denver's canine empire. A story so explosive that powerful forces have worked tirelessly to keep it hidden from the public eye. In 1973, Denver was dying. Urban decay spread like cancer through the city's veins. Crime rates soared beyond control, and families fled to the suburbs in droves. Downtown became a ghost town after sunset. Property values crashed, and city officials faced the terrifying reality that Denver might become another Detroit, a cautionary tale of American urban collapse. That's when Dr. Margaret Paz Patterson entered the scene with what seemed like the most ridiculous proposal in municipal history. Dr. Patterson wasn't just any consultant. She was a behavioral psychologist who had spent years studying European cities, obsessed with one peculiar pattern she discovered. Cities with high dog ownership rates consistently showed lower crime statistics, stronger community bonds, and higher property values. But her proposal to the Denver City Council went far beyond encouraging pet ownership. She wanted to implement what she called Operation Golden Retriever, a systematic program of social engineering using dogs as unwitting agents of urban transformation. The plan was so controversial that the meeting minutes were immediately classified. Council members argued for hours behind closed doors, some calling it brilliant, others denouncing it as manipulation of the highest order. But with the city hemorrhaging residents and tax revenue, desperation won. They approved Phase 1, a secret experiment that would test Patterson's theory on 3 unsuspecting neighborhoods: Capitol Hill, Highland, and Park Hill. Between 1974 and 1976, the city began installing what they internally called canine catalyst zones throughout these test areas. These weren't just dog parks. They were strategically designed spaces that encouraged specific behaviors. Hidden microphones recorded conversations, while city employees disguised as dog walkers collected data on social interactions. The city even established partnerships with local animal shelters, offering subsidized pet adoptions to residents in target demographics. The results were immediate and disturbing in their effectiveness. Crime rates in test neighborhoods dropped by 23% within 12 months. Burglaries virtually disappeared from blocks with high dog density. Street muggings became almost non-existent in areas where regular dog walking occurred. Property values surged 15% higher than comparable neighborhoods. Local businesses reported increased foot traffic, and community meetings saw unprecedented attendance rates. But the most chilling discovery was psychological. Residents in high dog density areas reported feeling safer, more connected to neighbors, and more invested in community well-being. They didn't know they were being studied, didn't know their behavioral changes were being measured and recorded. They simply felt better about their lives and their city, unaware that their emotions were the result of calculated social manipulation. Dr. Patterson's follow-up report, buried in city archives for decades, revealed the sinister genius of her plan. Dogs, she wrote, were organic surveillance systems that created voluntary neighborhood watch networks. Dog owners naturally became more observant of their surroundings, more likely to recognize strangers, and more invested in maintaining safe, clean environments. The daily routine of dog walking created regular foot traffic that deterred criminal activity while fostering casual social interactions that built community trust. By 1977, city officials were convinced. They approved Phase 2, a citywide expansion that would transform Denver into what Patterson called America's first engineered pet paradise. Over the next 5 years, the city invested millions in creating an extensive network of dog parks, off-leash areas, and pet-friendly public spaces. They revised zoning laws to encourage pet-friendly housing, offered tax incentives to businesses that welcome dogs, and even established the nation's first municipal pet adoption program. The transformation was remarkable. By 1982, Denver had one of the lowest crime rates among major American cities. Property values had recovered and were climbing steadily. Tourism increased as Denver gained national attention as a pet-friendly destination. Local businesses thrived as dog-owning customers proved more loyal and community-minded than average consumers. The experiment appeared to be an unqualified success. But success came with a price that few understood. The city had fundamentally altered the social fabric of entire neighborhoods without residents' knowledge or consent. Families without pets found themselves increasingly isolated in communities designed around dog ownership. Renters were pushed out as landlords converted to pet-friendly properties that commanded higher rents. Low-income residents couldn't afford pet ownership expenses and gradually found themselves excluded from the very community programs their tax dollars supported. Dr. Patterson's own notes, discovered after her death in 1994, revealed her growing discomfort with the program's evolution. "We created a system that works," she wrote in a private journal entry from 1983, "but we also created a form of social stratification based on pet ownership. We didn't just engineer a pet-friendly city. We engineered a city that requires pets for full social participation." The conspiracy deepened in the 1980s when national urban planning organizations began studying Denver's miracle transformation. Federal housing officials visited secretly, taking detailed notes on the city's methods. Real estate developers from across the country flew in for private briefings. Dr. Patterson found herself consulting for dozens of cities seeking to replicate Denver's success. But she increasingly refused to share her complete methodology, disturbed by the ethical implications of mass behavioral manipulation. Internal documents from this period, leaked by a former city employee in 2003, revealed the extent of ongoing monitoring and control. The city maintained detailed databases of pet ownership by neighborhood, tracked adoption rates and spending patterns, and even influenced veterinary clinic locations to maximize community impact. They coordinated with local media to promote positive stories about dog ownership while quietly suppressing coverage of pet-related problems or accidents. The most shocking revelation came in 1988 when Dr. Patterson attempted to blow the whistle on her own creation. She prepared a comprehensive report detailing the ethical violations and social manipulation inherent in Operation Golden Retriever, planning to present it at the National Urban Planning Conference. 3 days before her scheduled presentation, she was contacted by city officials who reminded her of confidentiality agreements she'd signed 15 years earlier. Her presentation was canceled, her research materials were confiscated, and she was quietly removed from all city consulting contracts. But the machine she'd built continued operating without her. By the 1990s, Denver's dog-centric urban planning had become so normalized that new city officials didn't even realize they were perpetuating an engineered system. The original conspiracy had evolved into accepted municipal policy, with each new generation of planners simply assuming that dog parks and pet-friendly policies were natural expressions of community values rather than calculated tools of social control. The evidence of this decades-long deception lies hidden in plain sight throughout Denver today. The seemingly random distribution of dog parks follows precise mathematical models designed to maximize social interaction and surveillance coverage. The city's pet registration database contains fields for behavioral and demographic data that have nothing to do with animal control. Municipal contracts with veterinary clinics include clauses requiring them to report on client conversations and community concerns. Even more disturbing, similar programs have been quietly implemented in over 40 American cities since 1985, all based on Denver's model, but with even less transparency. Phoenix, Portland, Austin, and Seattle all show the telltale signs of engineered pet-centric urban planning, complete with the same demographic shifts and social stratification that Dr. Patterson warned about. The current mayor's recent statements about Denver's dog-friendly reputation weren't casual observations. They were carefully calculated public relations messages designed to maintain the narrative that's hidden the truth for 50 years. When he speaks about the city's natural evolution toward pet friendliness, he's perpetuating a lie that's shaped the lives of millions of residents who never consented to participate in one of the largest social engineering experiments in American history. Today, as housing costs skyrocket and community divisions deepen, the consequences of Operation Golden Retriever are becoming impossible to ignore. The system that once saved Denver from urban decay has created new forms of exclusion and inequality that disproportionately affect those who can't or won't participate in the city's dog-centric culture. Renters face discrimination, families with allergies find themselves socially isolated, and low-income residents are priced out of neighborhoods where pet ownership is an unspoken requirement for social acceptance. The truth about Denver's dog parks isn't just about urban planning or pet policy. It's about the fundamental question of whether governments have the right to manipulate their citizens' behavior without consent, even when the results appear beneficial. It's about the slippery slope from social engineering to social control, and the price we pay when we allow our communities to be shaped by hidden agendas rather than democratic values. Dr. Patterson's final journal entry, written just months before her death, provides a haunting epilogue to this story. I wanted to save a dying city, and I did. But in doing so, I may have killed something more precious: the right of citizens to choose their own path to community and belonging. Denver's dogs are happy, but are Denver's people truly free? The conspiracy continues today, hidden beneath layers of bureaucracy and normalized policy, affecting the daily lives of every Denver resident, whether they realize it or not. The question isn't whether Operation Golden Retriever worked. It's whether we can live with the knowledge of how it worked and what that means for the future of American cities. But the story doesn't end with Dr. Patterson's death or the gradual normalization of her social engineering experiment. In fact, the most disturbing chapters of this conspiracy were yet to be written, as Operation Golden Retriever evolved into something far more sophisticated and pervasive than its creator ever imagined. In 1995, a young urban planner named David Chun stumbled upon fragments of Dr. Patterson's original research while conducting a routine historical survey of Denver's municipal archives. What he discovered would consume the next decade of his life and ultimately force him into hiding. Chun found evidence that Operation Golden Retriever hadn't ended in the 1980s. It had simply gone underground, becoming more subtle, more invasive, and infinitely more profitable. The breakthrough came when Chun discovered financial records showing continuous payments from the city to something called the Urban Harmony Institute from 1989 through 2003. The Institute, supposedly a nonprofit research organization studying community development, was actually a front company operated by former associates of Dr. Patterson. Their mission was to refine and expand the original dog park social engineering model, but with one crucial difference. They were now selling their services to the highest bidder. Chen's investigation revealed that by the mid-1990s, Denver's dog-centric urban planning had attracted the attention of major real estate development corporations. These companies recognized that Dr. Patterson's methods weren't just effective at reducing crime and building community. They were incredibly powerful tools for increasing property values and accelerating gentrification. What had begun as a desperate attempt to save a dying city had become a sophisticated system for orchestrating neighborhood transformation and demographic displacement. The Urban Harmony Institute's client list, obtained through Chen's painstaking records requests, read like a who's who of American real estate development. Major corporations paid millions for detailed reports on how to implement pet-friendly community transformation strategies in targeted neighborhoods. The Institute provided consultation on everything from optimal dog park placement to psychological profiling of residents most likely to adopt pets and invest in property improvements. But the most chilling discovery in Chen's files was evidence of what the Institute called demographic optimization protocols. These were systematic methods for using pet ownership requirements and pet-friendly housing policies to gradually price out existing residents and attract higher-income demographics. Low-income families, elderly residents on fixed incomes, and immigrants unfamiliar with American pet culture found themselves increasingly unable to afford or access housing in neighborhoods undergoing canine transformation. Chun documented case after case of working-class neighborhoods that were systematically converted using Dr. Patterson's methods. First, developers would purchase properties and convert them to pet-friendly housing, often doubling rents in the process. Next, they would lobby for new dog parks and off-leash areas, claiming community support from carefully orchestrated resident surveys. Finally, they would work with local businesses to create pet-centric commercial districts that catered to affluent dog owners while pricing out traditional neighborhood establishments. The process was so effective that the Urban Harmony Institute began offering what they called turnkey neighborhood transformation packages to developers nationwide. For a fee of several $100,000, they would provide complete demographic analysis, community infiltration strategies, and step-by-step implementation guides for converting any urban neighborhood into a high-value, dog-centric community within 5 to 7 years. Chen's most disturbing discovery was evidence that the Institute had infiltrated local government offices in dozens of cities. They placed trained operatives in municipal planning departments, where they could influence zoning decisions, park development priorities, and housing policies from within. These operatives, many of whom were unaware of their role in the larger conspiracy, genuinely believed they were promoting pet-friendly policies for community benefit, not corporate profit. The financial records Chun uncovered showed the staggering scope of this operation. Between 1995 and 2005, the Urban Harmony Institute and its network of subsidiary companies generated over $400 million in consulting fees from real estate developers, municipal governments, and private investors. They had successfully monetized Dr. Patterson's social engineering research, turning community manipulation into a thriving industry. But Chen's investigation took a dangerous turn in 2004 when he began documenting the human cost of these transformation programs. He interviewed hundreds of displaced residents, documenting stories of families forced from neighborhoods they'd lived in for generations, elderly residents isolated in communities they no longer recognized, and small business owners bankrupted when their customer base was systematically replaced with affluent pet owners who shopped elsewhere. The psychological impact was particularly devastating. Children who grew up in transformed neighborhoods often developed what psychologists were beginning to recognize as community displacement trauma, anxiety and depression related to losing their sense of place and belonging. Adults reported feeling like strangers in their own neighborhoods, unable to afford the lifestyle changes required for social acceptance in their transformed communities. Chen's research revealed that the success metrics used to measure Operation Golden Retriever's effectiveness, reduced crime rates, increased property values, higher community engagement, completely ignored the experiences of displaced residents. The system was brilliant at creating the appearance of community improvement while systematically excluding anyone who couldn't or wouldn't participate in the dog-centric culture imposed. In 2005, Chen attempted to publish his findings in the Journal of Urban Planning Ethics, but his article was rejected without review. When he tried to present his research at academic conferences, his applications were denied or his presentations were mysteriously canceled. Colleagues who had initially supported his work began distancing themselves, citing concerns about the controversial nature of his claims. The breakthrough came when Chun discovered that several members of the Journal of Urban Planning Ethics editorial board were also consultants for companies that had received Urban Harmony Institute services. The academic institutions he'd trusted to provide oversight were compromised by the same financial networks that profited from the continuation of Dr. Patterson's legacy. Faced with institutional opposition and growing personal threats, Chen made a desperate decision. He compiled his entire research archive, over 10,000 documents, recordings, and financial records, and uploaded it to a secure server with instructions for automatic release if anything happened to him. Then he disappeared, leaving behind only a cryptic message for his colleagues. The dogs were never the point. They were just the delivery system. Chen's archive was finally released in 2018 by a group of investigative journalists who had been trying to contact him for years. The documents provided irrefutable evidence of the systematic manipulation of American urban communities through engineered pet-friendly policies. But by then, the system had become so entrenched that exposure barely caused a ripple in public consciousness. Today, over 200 American cities show clear signs of having implemented some version of Operation Golden Retriever, whether through direct consultation with Dr. Patterson's successors or through imitation of Denver's widely celebrated model. The original conspiracy to save one dying city has become a standardized toolkit for real estate speculation and demographic engineering, affecting millions of Americans who have no idea their communities are being systematically manipulated. The most tragic irony is that Dr. Patterson's original intentions were genuinely humanitarian. She wanted to save Denver and improve residents' quality of life through innovative community building. But her methods were so effective that they became tools for the exact opposite outcome: community destruction through systematic displacement and cultural homogenization. The dogs running freely through Denver's parks today are living symbols of this complex legacy. They represent both the genuine community connections that Dr. Patterson hoped to foster and the exclusionary mechanisms that her research enabled. Every tail wagging in a Denver dog park is a reminder of both urban planning's potential for positive change and its capacity for hidden manipulation. The conspiracy continues to evolve, adapting to new technologies and social trends while maintaining its core function of converting authentic community development into profitable demographic transformation. Recent evidence suggests that social media algorithms and smartphone apps are now being used to identify and target potential participants in neighborhood transformation programs, making the process even more efficient and less visible than Dr. Patterson could have imagined. The truth about Denver's dog parks forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the nature of community, the ethics of urban planning, and the price of progress in American cities. It challenges us to look beyond the surface appeal of pet-friendly policies and examine who benefits when our neighborhoods are systematically redesigned around the preferences of affluent pet owners. Most importantly, it reminds us that the most effective conspiracies aren't hidden in shadowy back rooms. They're hiding in plain sight, disguised as positive community improvements that make us feel good about participating in our own manipulation. The dogs of Denver aren't just pets. They're unwitting agents in one of the most successful social engineering experiments in American history.